It's Rick without the K. James presents, in my opinion, podcast.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, as well as the notification bell. Thank you for watching.
You guys, we are back with another episode. Here with the legend himself, Mr. Guy Torry. Oh, man. I tried to, IMDb you, and I didn't realize how much you had your hands in everything.
It's all lies. All lies, man.
I mean, obviously, we're going to talk about some of the things that I loved you in, like American History X, top 10 movie of all time for me. Really? I've said it before on this podcast. Yes.
You only seen 7 movies. So what does that say about you?
No, I've seen a lot. But American History X, one of the most gratifying movies for myself to watch. He was on Def Comedy Jam.
It's a dark movie, man. This is a lot about your personality, man.
Well, you're gonna get it when we go through this podcast.
Okay, all right. I was worried about you for a minute, man.
And then Fat Tuesdays. I want to touch on that, but not just yet. I do want to right off the bat tell you, great job, man. That documentary. I know we feel it different as comedians, but I have not heard. Let me put it like this: other comedians have watched it and was like, "Is there a season 2 coming out?" Like, because yeah, we all just loved it so much. So I just wanted to straight off the bat talk about that. But before we get to that, I always like to ask my comedians what year you might have started and what class of comedians, meaning like in that 3 or 4 year start, because I'm in my own class. We started about 2009, so I'm starting to see other people, right, my peers, like finally get their TV credits and everything else. Right. So, I've had Faison on, I've had Gary Owen a couple weeks ago, and I think Gary might be part of your class, right?
No. Gary's not part of my class. I started in '92.
Oh, okay.
So it's 30 years now. September 10th. 2022 was 30 years of doing stand-up. First time I stepped on stage in L.A., where I started. So yeah, and in my classes, people like Chris Spencer, Alex Thomas, Chris Tucker, talent. Go to East Coast talent. Tony Woods, maybe Rodney Perry. He may have came a little bit after me.
And you started in L.A.
Started in L.A. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Melanie Camacho. She's in my class. I think Samore is in that class. Maybe Michael Blackson. Okay. A lot of those was East Coast. And so, who hadn't really done Def Jam yet. So Def Jam was on, but some of those comics who started my class, of course, was too soon to do Def Jam.
Yeah.
So you didn't know a lot of the East Coast comics until, we started traveling outside of L.A., and then Def Jam definitely showcased a lot of comedians from the East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, down South, all over.
Okay. And so about 92 is when you made the move from St. Louis?
Yeah, exactly. It was exactly 92. Not about. It was, it was August of 92.
Okay.
From St. Louis. Drove to St. Louis.
I'm asking these questions because just because I want to know where I am timeline as well as for the viewers, right? So that must have been.
And I was born in 92, by the way. So I'm 30 years old and I've been doing comedy 30 years.
Okay. And where were the first spots that you hit when you touched down in LA?
Man, it was the first spot I hit was this place like a comedy night, and it wasn't like a comedy club. It was like rest in peace, Ricky Harris was hosting the show.
Okay.
My brother was headlining the show, Joe Torry, and that was my first time on stage. I think it was in Claremont or Mount Clair. They have a Claremont and a Mount Clair. I can't remember which one it was, but that was the first time I stepped on stage in LA to do stand up, and then I went to the Comedy Act Theater, the world famous Comedy Act Theater. Okay. And then I was going around to the Maverick Flat, which is a fun house. So it just hit all the hole in the walls. Open mic at the Comedy Store, on Monday nights. It was potluck, and just hitting anybody that had a stage and a mic and a free drink. Oh, my ass was on stage doing it. Yeah, I mean, I didn't care where it was.
Now, is the Comedy Theater, is that
Comedy Act Theater?
Yeah, is that where you met most of the people that you did in comedy?
Yeah, that was a legitimate comedy club. I think they were open maybe 3 days a week. and it was in South Central. Robin Harris made it famous. Michael Williams was the owner. He opened it. I think it was may have been the first black-owned comedy club in the country.
Oh, really?
And and so that's what a lot of comics came up through. You know, from Martin, when he came to L.A., he would use it as his club. My brother Joe Torry, D.L. Hughley, the Wayans, you know, Damon, and
Keenan.
And Keenan, yeah.
Okay.
And so a lot of those comics use that as their spot because, you know, if you watch the documentary Fat Tuesdays, the era hip hop comedy on Amazon Prime, you'll see that a lot of white clubs weren't that welcoming to black comedians. So black entrepreneurs took it upon themselves to open up their own spots.
Oh. And one of the reasons I wanted to ask you about that is because I had Bruce on.
Yeah.
And he had
Did you
his...
sit in this chair? Because that's, hey, Bruce.
Why? You're the
Hey,
second
that's my
comedian
guy.
to say that.
Because if he sat in this chair, whoa.
I know. I think Ryan Davis said the same thing.
Ryan is funny. Young, up-and-coming comedy. Ryan ain't exactly slim himself.
But
So,
he fit in it. So
yeah.
he was like,
Oh,
I know
yeah.
Bruce didn't sit in this.
Yeah, yeah.
But I
Ryan
had brought
Davis
him
is
up
good.
because they're both from the East Coast or
Yeah,
whatever. And I was hearing how he had his version of Fat Tuesdays out in Atlanta or whatever. Right.
A lot
So-
of people, because of Fat Tuesdays, man, a lot of black comedians spawned their own rooms. They were inspired by Fat Tuesdays, which was great because that's what we needed as black comedians. You know, and so many of us that Fat Tuesday was not going to service all the black comedians. So I'm glad that Atlanta had a Fat Tuesdays version of that. Miami, Cleveland, Dallas, Fat Tuesday, and even in Toronto. In Canada, there's Fat Tuesday urban nights popping up in white clubs everywhere. So that was the beauty of Fat Tuesdays. There were black comedy nights at in black neighborhoods, right? But there weren't really a lot of or any black comedy nights at a white club. That was the difference, because when you're in a legitimate comedy club, then people tend to take you more serious as a artist. You know, and the industry comes to legitimate comedy clubs. They go to the hole in the walls too, the mom and pop shops, comedy shops. But the full service comedy club is where you really want to be, and get that showcase and get that experience.
Now, I asked that because back then, we have social media now, right? Even though I'm probably older than you, right? So
You damn sure ain't older than me. I bet you're right. I was born in '92.
Yeah, you were born in '92. I was born in '79. So,
Yeah.
but what I wonder though sometimes is because people that like my age, I remember when the world didn't have social media.
Oh,
you know what I mean? So,
I remember when the world didn't have cell phones.
yeah, I remember pen pagers and Bravo pager,
I remember
Bravo
when the
Plus,
world didn't
right?
have pagers. How about that?
But that's what leads me to this question: is you guys didn't have social media back then. And in your documentary, you touch on it a little bit, how it did spawn everywhere else. And so you must have been like just a celebrity when you left LA though, too. That's
No, it's word of mouth, because it was only really known amongst comics widely that there was this black night in LA at the Comedy Store. A few people who would travel to LA and would go back to their cities, yeah, but it still wasn't, it wasn't like social media to where everybody outside of stand-up comedy knew. So comics would come to LA for something else, maybe an audition or a movie, or just, I don't know, play the Comedy Act Theater or whatever, hear about Fat Tuesdays, come to Fat Tuesdays, see this crazy, amazing night, and then go back and talk about it. But they were talking amongst other comedians. And then you had the artists, the rap artists and the singing artists, the recording artists, who would travel to LA, who may have lived in Miami, like a Luke, or Atlanta, like my man
who? Trick Daddy.
Goody Mob. No. No, it's
CeeLo?
Barkley.
CeeLo, right?
CeeLo,
Yeah,
CeeLo Green, or the East Coast rappers, Red, Method Man, Rakim, KRS One. They all would come. So we had a lot of people coming to LA, and then they wanted to know what was going on a Tuesday night. And it's like, yo, Torry got this black comedy night at the Comedy Store. Where is it? It's on Sunset. It's on Sunset? And then they would come.
That just hearing those names, right? I had one of the questions that you led into is that was crazy to know. Like, you must have met Pac, right?
Man, Pac was amazing.
I think I've seen pictures of you and Biggie.
No, not me and Biggie. That probably was Lavelle Crawford. No, I'm joking. That probably was Faison Low. That wasn't Biggie. No.
You never met Biggie?
I never met Biggie.
Really?
I never met Biggie. I wasn't a Biggie fan.
Oh, really?
Because I was
the West
friends
Coast,
with Pac,
East Coast,
and if Pac didn't like Biggie, I didn't like Biggie. But then once
again, I told you I can clip anything out.
Yeah, you
want
can
me
keep
to.
all that, all right, man. Fuck that.
He said,
But
fuck that.
I
West
became
Coast.
to appreciate Biggie. Once I really got into his music, I was like, this guy's dope, And then once I saw the movie Notorious, and you saw the human side of Biggie Smalls, Notorious humanized Biggie Smalls for people who probably weren't Biggie Smalls fans. I'm sure those who were fans and in New York was already, Biggie fans. But on the West Coast, because, East Coast, West Coast is going on, even though I was from the Midwest, and even though I lived in New York before I moved to St. Louis and before I, moved back to the West Coast, I mean, I was just all West Coast. Pac, I knew Pac. Pac would come to my shows, Dr. Dre and them was come to my shows. Ice Cube would come to my shows. So all of NWA would come to my shows. Snoop would come to my shows. Suge Knight, they would come. So I was West Coast.
Which one of these rappers came to your show? I mean, I'm pretty sure it was all of them.
But
the one that I tell people, what's funny is last night, right? When I came in and asked you, Gary Payton.
Yeah.
I was on stage. I was hosting.
Yeah.
And he's the only person that I've been on stage and the moment I saw him, I was up there and I was like, "Is that Gary Payton?" I forgot what I was gonna say.
Yeah, he loves comedy, man. He's that
and
guy.
He's always here. He's always
one of the 50th
right?
greatest players in the history.
Dude is
75
dope.
now.
And he's got some of the dopest shoes ever made.
Yeah.
The glove shoes are fucking. And I'm a sneakerhead. So
I wish I liked Nike. I'm an Adidas head. So
me too. I'm a 3-stripe person. Normally my jacket has
it on. I'm rocking some Adidas right now. This is Ivy Park.
So
Adidas.
I'm rocking Reeboks right now, but those are old school Iversons.
Yeah.
But I lived on the East Coast because, as we were talking earlier, I was in a military brat, and then I got into the military.
Got it.
So
I wasn't going that route. I probably should have, but I felt like growing up with my dad and the way he was, we were in boot camp the whole time anyway. So yeah, Dad was strict. Dad wasn't no joke.
There was a yes sir, yes ma'am, right? Growing up,
more than that.
I know my dad
for the stage.
Yeah, exactly. My dad was the same way and retired as a naval officer. So
my dad
we
did
grew
23 years.
So well, tell him thank you for his service.
Yeah, man. He rest in peace. He passed away 8 years ago, but I keep him in my act to keep him alive.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's my way of keeping his legacy, even though I'm named after him. But to keep him alive, I put him in my act to talk about him on stage.
All right. Let's go back real quick to the rappers. Is there a rapper that you just met that you were like, dude, like just so awe that like this person came? Like,
I mean, man, Rakim was one of those guys because again,
the guy.
Snoop and Tupac and them were coming up, and they were already legend NWA, but you was in it. When you're in it, you're like, oh, those are favorite rapper, but not just any rappers, man, just Magic Johnson, Eddie Murphy, when they would come, it was like I was starstruck, and as far as like rappers though, but a young Kanye, he wasn't Kanye then, he wasn't even Ye, but Kanye would come. Kanye mom came, rest in peace. She would come to Fat Tuesdays. Redman and Method Man would come. So by that time they were, they had done, the movies and things like that.
How long was that run for Fat Tuesdays?
Fat Tuesdays was a 10-year run.
Was a 10-year run?
Yeah.
Was that?
But I passed the torch on the other comics, so it continued.
94 or 95 to about.
I started in 95, yeah.
95
and ended
to
like in 2005.
Okay.
Boy, Charlie Murphy, my main man, Rick James. That's the one you think, the comedian Rick James. Get up.
I can't hear my neighbor crying, I can't breathe.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, as well as the notification bell. Thank you for watching.